This is the 6th episode of Being Jewish with me, Jonah Platt. I first met today's guest back in 2019 when we both sang at a pair of charity events. 5 years later, I'm hosting this show, and she's one of the stars of the most talked about comedy in the country. And no, I'm not referring to her star turn as an extra on Ghost Rider.
Shut up.
She's a talented actress, singer, a former Loconda lion, which we'll explain later. She loves pupusas, and she's a proud Jew. Please welcome the beguiling Jackie Tohn.
What an intro. Wow.
We try here at Being Jewish with Jonah Platt.
Wow. I'm so excited to be Jewish with you.
I'm so happy to have you here and be Jewish with you.
So happy
this is
to be
fantastic.
here.
Thanks for being here.
Oh my God, my pleasure. It's
so
beautiful.
we're gonna dive right in.
We better.
What is your earliest memory of being Jewish? Like when I say little Jewish Jackie, like what pops into your head?
It's such an interesting question because I feel so Jewish in my guts. Well, I could say this here. In most interviews, I say guts, but here I can say kishkas.
There you go.
See, I'm just Jewish. And I don't remember a time that I wasn't. And what I mean is like, it was always in my life. I went to Jewish sleepaway camp.
Oh, nice.
And so we had like Friday night services and I had a bat mitzvah. So I was in Hebrew school from the time I was very little. And I guess the earliest memory, my mom spoke Yiddish in the house.
Like
not
full on Yiddish or peppered in some words?
Full on to her mother, sister, and brother.
Whoa.
So I picked up a bunch of it, but way more than peppered. Like way more than oive. Like
that's so interesting.
Mit ein Tuchis mekenisch tanzen in zwei chasanas.
What did you just say?
I just said with
I heard Tuchis.
You heard Tuchis?
Yeah.
Which is with one ass you can't dance at two weddings.
Wow.
So when I was like a little kid actor and I was crying because I couldn't go to a school dance because I had a callback, she would say, you could pick. She wouldn't be like, you have to go to the callback. It was my idea to be a kid actor.
Mm-hmm. And where'd the Yiddish come from?
So my grandparents were Holocaust survivors and they were Polish.
On just your mom's side?
Yep.
Okay.
They escaped narrowly, of course, as everyone did. It's not like anyone freely escaped.
Right.
They were all over the place in Eastern Europe and going here, there, and everywhere. And in the ghettos and the shtetls, the Jews spoke Yiddish.
Right.
So when she came here, they spoke Yiddish.
Wow.
It wasn't a short story.
No, but this is what we're here to talk about.
Okay.
You know, we're digging in.
I get insecure that I'm like talking a lot. Okay.
You're perfect.
You're perfect.
So we're perfect
We're
together. Did you grow up in a particularly Jewish neighborhood, like community?
I mean, I'm from Long Island.
Right.
So it's like I'm from New York.
We're on Long Island.
Oceanside. Where are you guys?
My wife is from Comac.
Oh, I knew that,
Yeah.
of course.
Mm-hmm.
And where are you guys from?
I'm from LA. I'm born and raised. I'm the first of my line, born in LA.
I knew that.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that. Slayer of Dragons.
That's right.
So I was on Long Island. So it was like, there were Jewish people pretty much all over the place. And then I moved to LA. So the only two places I've ever lived have had plenty of Jews.
Yeah. Did you celebrate the holidays like in your house growing up?
We did. We were high holiday service people when I was very little, but then we sort of outgrew it. And I have two older brothers and they didn't really want to go. And I don't know that I did. And my parents really didn't push it on us, but we did Passover and we did Rosh Hashanah. For every year after my grandma passed, we lit the yahrzeit candle for my grandma and grandpa. Like there was always, like, I don't know what Sukkot is. But like, I know that it is. And I know that there's like a lulav and an etrog and the lovely gentleman will come and talk to me on the street. And I'm always happy to shake and do the thing with them and it feels good.
Yeah.
But I don't really know what it's for or what I'm doing.
Do you know that it's this weekend?
No.
So Sukkot starts this weekend. Okay. You're like perfectly on theme.
Holy.
I have a Sukkot question in here for later.
I can't wait. I used to go in a sukkah. My mom's friend Lenore Stam used to deliver a shalach manas basket every year.
Lenore, what a gem.
Of course, Lenore. And I would freak over the shalach manas because there would be like really good, weird Israeli candy in there and good snacks. Okay.
Amazing. So just, brief little explainer. Sukkot is a harvest festival. That's why there's all these like vegetation and fruits and vegetables and stuff. It's one of the 3 times during the year where people would pilgrimage to the temple. And the sukkah is like the hut that meant to be like the huts that the Jews made for makeshift shelters when they were wandering in the desert for 40 years before they got to Israel.
Oh,
so we relive it together every year.
Thank you, Lenore Stam, for the Shalchmonis.
There you go.
See?
You said in an interview that your bat mitzvah theme was Hollywood, which has obviously been a lifelong dream of yours.
Of course.
Not so unlike your fictional daughter Miriam's Big Apple.
Could you
bat
believe?
mitzvah.
I know.
Like, were there any flashbacks while you were shooting that?
There were so many funny things, and nobody wants this. Like, it makes me emotional, to be honest. Like, to be doing the Hora on a television show in 2024, it was nuts. It was so special. It was so close to home. I was channeling my mother every minute of every day. And my mother's nothing like that. My mother's like, in fact, the opposite. She's like boundaryless almost to a fault. Like, she'll do whatever you want. Someone else has a curfew. What, are you going to stay out alone? So that was my curfew when I was a kid. So she's the opposite, but just the joy and the bat mitzvah and just everything reminded me of my childhood.
So special.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember any of your like Torah portion or off Torah from your bat mitzvah?
I don't remember my. It was like that kind of thing.
Sure, yeah, that rings a bell.
I don't, but that came
was
out
pretty
of,
good.
That came out of nowhere. I mean, the second they turned it into a song, I got it in 2 seconds.
So you were already into singing big time at that point.
Oh
in your life.
yes.
Okay.
Oh yes. My dad accompanied me at every diner, cruise, local pub talent show that there was up until I moved away.
So you've been doing this a long time. You started super young.
I have been paddling like the Dickens for 30-something years.
Wow.
It's nuts, truly.
When
I think about it now, it's that's crazy. It's
what a journey.
What a journey, dude. What a journey.
What a journey.
Yeah.
So music, big part of your life.
Music.
You released a couple albums and you were on American Idol.
The Idol story is just the briefest version of it is that I just tried out because it was my last possible year because I was so old.
How old were you when you tried?
28. I was so old. It was the oldest you could be.
I watched your audition.
It was the oldest you could be. Oh, don't.
Preparation
Oh, God.
for
I
this.
wish I want to Khloe Kardashian that and remove it from the internet. How there was like photos she didn't like and she literally is powerful enough. Yeah. They were wiped. There was like 120,000, 118,000 people tried out that year. And they showed like 2 of the New York state auditions on TV. One was mine. Then I went to Hollywood Week. And they showed my auditions in every round. I was like, this is bonkers. I got eliminated with a couple other people at right before the commercial break. And then the producers like escorted you away. A shuttle took you to the hotel. And then there was like departure paperwork slid under your door. You didn't get to say goodbye to anyone. You didn't get to talk to anyone. That was in March.
You'll be neither seen nor heard.
That's right.
And ushered away.
That is right.
That's brutal.
It's wild. It's nice. It's a fair and it's a wonderful business that we've chosen. And there's almost little to no psychological warfare.
Not at all. It's easy. It's for everyone.
Come on, it's for everyone. That's what I like to say.
Yeah.
It's for everyone.
So you uniquely have played quite a few Jewish characters in your career, which is like kind of unusual. You know, young Fran on The Nanny, Melrose on Glow, Gilda Radner, and now, of course, Esther. We got a lot of Hollywood Jews who are afraid to even admit that they're Jewish. And here you are,
yeah, quite the opposite.
Rocking it. You know, what do you make of that? Making a career out of it.
My personality, voice, and face don't allow me to deny my Judaism. I
don't feel that way.
Oh, that's nice.
And looking at you and listening to you. It's not just
I don't know why I take that as a compliment. That's self-hate. That's like vaguely anti-Semitic of me to have taken it as a compliment that you
contain multitudes.
Thank you.
That's what
I appreciate that. And
you know.
But I think if I'm being true to myself, I think very clearly the easiest thing to cast me in is some version of the Jewess sitting before you.
Right.
And I feel so proud to be Jewish. I feel proud to play Jews. I just think there's something funny. I did this the other day and someone was like, money. And I was like, careful.
Yeah, watch it.
But kind of that is what it looks like. But I just mean like there's like a chewiness to the culture of who we are. And yeah, I think it helps in a lot of the parts that I play. There's an authenticity there.
Yeah. I've played a Jew 3 times, once in a movie, once in a play, once in a musical. And I love it. I mean, it's so cool to get to be something that you are in the guise of another character.
Of course.
But yeah. Does playing a Jewish role do anything to your real life connection to being Jewish?
I've always been pretty connected, but again, like not mega practicing. But I think that it's just who I am. It's who my mother is. It's like we are Borscht Belt people. We just are like shticky, silly, loud. We just are who we are. And that happens, the adjectives used to describe us happen to also be a lot of the adjectives used to describe like what it's like to be Jewish.
Yeah.
So I don't know that playing Jews makes me more or less in touch. It's pretty much a straight line.
It's a great answer. Has anyone in your professional life ever done or said anything in regards to you being Jewish that's made you uncomfortable?
Oh, something happened once, but I used to tour the country doing like musical comedy. But at a school, I think weirdly enough, I was in Pensacola, Florida. This one girl, and it wasn't she was just like, she just came up to me and was like, Amber said you were Jewish. That's not true, is it? And I didn't know how to answer because I was like, oh no, I'm here alone. But that's not true, is it? Was really weird. Like she'd never met a Jew. And also when I was on American Idol, many of my fellow competitors had never met a Jew.
Yeah, I mean, like that's more common than people think, common. But people don't realize.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think
common that is.
There's just not a lot of us. Our numbers are low.
We small,
and given our tiny size, we're going to try and stick together. Obviously, we're not going to go to really Alabama where you are the only one there. You know,
yeah,
like a lot of cultures, you find your little pockets and you.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're gonna get into the show full on.
I can't wait.
If I may, I would like to take a few minutes to weigh in on the show myself.
I think this feels right.
Yeah. If anyone has been following my advocacy since before this show or before October 7th, talking about Jewish representation on screen and the desire to see more contemporary Jewish narratives has been a mission of mine. I mean, I've spoken about it in keynotes. I wrote for Variety about it. I talk about it a lot online. And I'm also someone who obviously has been a TV writer, an actor, producer. So I do feel I have some amount of expertise on this area. And I feel uniquely qualified to weigh in on this show, which has been so beloved, but also has had some negative reactions. So for me, I fucking loved it. I think the show is gold. It's like,
I love it too.
It's everything that I have been looking for. There's never been a show like it. It humanizes Jews. It wasn't schlocky at all. There's no oi is like the butt of the joke. The Jews are never the butt of the joke. It wasn't tropey. It's amazing that they're talking about Beit Deans and Havdalah and Camp Chaverim. It's like incredible.
It's incredible.
It really was awesome. And, I always want to see stories that are just contemporary people being people, and those people are Jewish. And that's what this show is.
That's perfectly put. Contemporary people being people, but in this instance, they're Jewish. So this is a little slice of life of what that looks like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this just totally checked that box for me. And so one of my favorite moments is in episode 2 when they're in the car and Kristen Bell's like, you don't look Jewish. And he's like, well, what should being Jewish look like? Should my nose be bigger? Should my hair be curlier? Those are the conversations we have.
The best.
And the fact that he not only is able to voice that, but also he's making light of it in a way that they've had that conversation
but making
before.
light of it like Jews do.
Exactly.
This is what we do.
The fact that that's being introduced on TV to millions of people is just such a win in my book. It was so amazing.
You're making me emotional. It's really nice.
I'm glad. And and so I enjoyed it as a Jew for sure, but I also just loved it as an audience member. It was funny. It was so charming. The romance, it made me want to fall in love with my wife all over again. I binged the whole show on Yom Kippur, actually, in between morning and evening. And, my wife converted.
I didn't know that.
So I have an even extra special connection.
I did not know that.
I very much like Noah, Rabbi Noah, needed to sort of meet somebody outside the usual circle who had the same kind of soul, but had a different vibe.
Wow.
Okay, so now that I've gushed, I want to respond to 2 of the main criticisms that I've heard about the show. And if I miss anything at the end, you tell me and we'll respond to that.
Right.
So the 2 big ones that I've heard are critiques of some of the verisimilitude of like the Jews, and the other's the portrayal of the Jewish women.
Yeah.
So to address the first one,
Sure.
you know, people are like, oh, the rabbi doesn't wear a kippah outside all the time, or like, why doesn't Kristen Bell know the word shalom, or why is he wearing a talit at a bat mitzvah party? And so my first response to that is, who cares? Why do we care about that? It doesn't matter. It's like, have you ever watched a TV show, like a medical show with a doctor friend or a legal show with a lawyer? They're like, that's not how we do it. That's not how we do it. I'm like, who gives a shit? It's a television show. It's not a documentary.
I have nothing to add, truly. I mean, it's really exactly how I feel.
Yeah.
It's like, and I mean, this sort of answers the second question, but it's like, it's a TV show.
Right. And
I'll wait to give my answer for the second.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
No,
but I'm like on a roll here.
I'm living.
I'm feeling it.
I'm living.
So, you know what? It's a TV show. When I say it's a TV show, what I mean is like everything about the show is organic to the narrative.
Yeah.
Like nothing was like thrown on to be a joke or to be extra or like was wedged in. Any choice that was made came from the story. So like, why isn't the rabbi wearing a kippah? Because if he's wearing a kippah, the entire pilot falls apart. She can't mistake him for the person who's not the rabbi. There's no meet cute. There's no series.
Thank you.
And like, why does she have to say the word shalom? Because maybe somebody watching at home doesn't know what the word shalom means. And then we explain it to them. And like, why is he wearing a talit at the bar mitzvah party? That one, I'm not so sure. Maybe they just wanted to like visually shortcut that he's doing something rabbinic and official. That was my guess.
Yeah, I don't actually know the answer, but it didn't even.
Like, who cares?
And it didn't even. I was there and I didn't even clock it.
Of course,
I was like, yeah, he's a rabbi. He has talit. He's wearing a salas.
I think that would be my guess of what it was. So like, bottom line is, we don't care. It got like 99.9% of everything was spot on, and so let's like stop complaining about the nitpicking. That's mostly how I feel.
Well, because I think. With the nitpicking, I think it's like, to your point, you are in this game as an actor, writer, producer. We are both, as have so many, been yearning for this sort of representation that is exactly as you put it, so authentic and not schmaltzy and not oive and all of that. And it just is so good. And so you're not going to get 100%. You're not going to get every single thing.
Oh, I have to throw out another connection. You know, it was shot at my synagogue.
Gorgeous synagogue.
Like, right? That's why like I had my bar mitzvah on that bima, you know? Pretty cool. Okay, so then to respond to, you know, the portrayal of the Jewish women, which there's been like many articles. I never want to invalidate anyone's feelings.
Totally.
If somebody felt, you know, offended,
that's exactly how I feel.
To feel. But here's how I would respond. I felt, as I said, everything flowed organically from the narrative. So like, of course his mother doesn't want to see him marry outside the tribe. That's very realistic. I know also, a lot of Jewish moms who would be that way.
Not only is that a Jewish mom thing, I'm trying to point to a culture where the mom doesn't want their kid to end up with someone from that culture.
Right. And
that's just universal.
100%.
And to your point, in this instance, with their Jews, but that's like, I can tell you how many friends of mine have done a movie or an indie or this or that, and the storyline is that their mother isn't pleased, and there's not articles about it.
Of course.
It's sort of a given that your mother wants you to end up with someone who's from the culture you're from.
Right. And
so I don't know.
Even more so, I thought they like bought themselves even more with the way because she was an immigrant. She had an accent. So like that's very realistic that when your parent is from the old country, they're adhering stronger to the traditions, and the kids are more liberal and progressive than the parents are. So, you know, people saying that she was so, you know, negatively portrayed, look, there had to be an obstacle. Every story has three things. It's got a hero, what they want, and an obstacle that stops them from getting it. If the family doesn't want to not have them be together,
everybody's thrilled for them. What is the show?
Then the show's over. It's over at the end of the episode.
What is the show?
Exactly.
And so I think on top of, you know, my other answer, it is that it's like, it's a TV show. There has to be conflict. There has to be an antagonist. It's me. And it's Tova.
Right.
But it's like, that's what the show is. Also, for my character, I'd like to say,
please.
It's not just that Joanne's not Jewish. That's, I think, a much smaller piece.
That's not it at all for your character.
No, my best friend is his ex of 6 years.
Of course.
I'm like, who is this?
Right.
And why is she in bright red mohair in the shul?
Right.
Get her out of here.
Yeah, and to me, that was very clear.
Yeah.
That it was like a defensive loyalty friend thing. And same goes for like the Wags. Like they were your clique. And again, they sort of go out of their way to like the shiksas talk about like that those are the cool mean girls, and it's like it's aspirational and they want to be like them. They're not putting them down. It's not a negative
at all
portrayal.
And also, again, with narrative arc, if I'm chill in the beginning, where am I going?
Right.
What are we doing?
Right.
And so even at the end, when I soften, and I mean, not to spoiler, but this is, I guess, how Netflix is. You binge.
Oh, yeah.
When I'm having that moment with Miriam at her bat mitzvah in the bathroom, it's like that moment, which is one of my favorites of the season, is hopefully poignant to you, to people at home. But that moment felt so poignant to me because of where my character came from, of being so rigid and everything had to be a type of way. And now she's on the floor in the bathroom at her daughter's bat mitzvah being like, fuck it, let's cut the dress.
Yeah.
What have I been doing? I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
And
little Joanne rubbed off there a little bit. Just to like close this loop.
Please.
The character of Rebecca, like all they do is talk about how gorgeous and perfect and amazing she is. And they're complimenting her, they're obsessed with her. And at the end, she's like super classy when she talks to Joanne. So I don't get what the problem is there.
I mean, wild.
And again, like with your character, they go out of their way to show that she's a great mom, that she's a cool wife.
Multidimensional.
That she almost banged Adam Levine.
Right.
It's like, those are not, it's not stereotypical at all. It was a very
Thank
unique character. It was just a person.
Thank you. I completely agree.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say that I've heard, like, it's like, that the Joanne and her sister are blonde and everybody else is brunette, which it's like, it's a visual shortcut. It keeps the juxtaposition alive.
So
It just does some storytelling.
Right.
And people were like, oh, and then they walk into the bat mitzvah and their hair is flowing. It's like, oh, here come the cool, hot shiksas to like break up this boring loser bar mitzvah. But again, like,
party was a rager before they got there.
and also that's like ignoring the context of the story. They're not going there to like show up the bat mitzvah. They're going because the chick who's trying to blow up her relationship is there. And it's like, I'm going to go be confident and stop trying to please everybody and just go get my man. And like how many movies, TV shows do you see where like the hero comes into the climax in the slow-mo walk?
Literally all
of them. Did I miss anything?
No, I loved that so much. And when anyone asks me in the future, I'm going to play them this clip of you responding.
So articles aside, anecdotally, what's the feedback that you've gotten from the show from Jewish people you know?
I'm so glad you asked that as the follow-up to the last question, because that should have been my answer to the last question, which is that every single Jewish person I know, and that's a lot of Jewish, but 75% of all the Jews on the planet,
Right.
Obsessed.
Right.
I told you I went to Jewish sleepaway camp. I went to Hebrew school as a kid. Every Jewish person I grew up with is DMing or finding me online and just being like, dude, what? This is for everyone, but like so special to us specifically. And yeah, I just think it's felt really good to receive. And I think it feels really good for the people that are watching it.
Did you feel like there was enough authentic perspective in the writer's room?
This is actually fun. I don't know if I'm outing anyone right now.
Ooh.
Multiple people have like either texted or DM'd or told me in person. My rabbi was the consultant on the show. But like
he's a very well-known rabbi.
But apparently there were many, which is why when
only one has been like publicly popularized as the
then
rabbi.
I said to someone like, "Oh, this guy," and they were like, "No." And I'm like, "Are other rabbis?" It's such a cute.
The one that I have read about and have been told that and saw him speak about was Steve Leader, who's the emeritus of Wilshire Boulevard.
Yes, but then there was another one, and I said Steve Leader, and they were like, "No," and I was like, "Oh." I just think it's cute that like
they got their own Beit Din,
but just that there were like rabbis in LA being like, "I was the consultant on that." It's just like really
everybody trying to take credit.
It's really cute. And I'm sure they did something or spoke to a friend who was in the writer's room.
Right.
All of this to say, Erin has the unique perspective of, she probably knows more about Judaism than I do just because she's a convert.
She had to take a course
and she had to
it.
like learn about it. And so like, I obviously know all the things I know. And so we have very different Jewish experiences.
Right. Did you ever get a script and you were like, do I need to say something about this?
Oh, that's a good question. I actually called my mom because our costumer, unreal, this gal Nagar.
Everybody looked amazing.
The costume, the wardrobe was sickening.
Yeah.
She had me in like this black gown for the bat mitzvah, and I had to call my mom and be like, because we wear obviously black for Shiva, and I was like, can we wear black at bat mitzvahs? And she was like, I think Orthodox don't. But then is that wrong? I don't know.
I have no idea.
So, but then we weren't able to get a conclusive answer. And she was like, they're Reform Jews. They can kind of do whatever they want. And so I wore the black. But there was another time where we were filming toward, is it called a yurtzeit wall when you're in
with
shul
all the
and
names.
It's the names of the people who've passed? We were filming toward it one day, and I like sort of raised my hand that I didn't know if that was like in good,
Good taste.
in good taste, where I was like, oh, I think, and then Tova was like, oh, you're right. We should, and then we just moved the shot over a little. So it wasn't just like Tova doing shtick with like a list of people who passed behind her.
Right. I can picture exactly where that is.
And I know you can.
So you mentioned Erin, the show's creator, who this was sort of loosely based on her own experience.
Yep.
Did she like set any kind of sort of purpose or urgency to the show, like based on that? Or was it just like, let's make a great show?
Let's make a great show. I mean, I don't know what her intention or what she was going into it, but I think I've heard her on a lot of pods just talk about like, yeah, I just wanted to talk about the best decision I ever made, which was like marrying a Jewish boy and becoming Jewish. She's just like so proud of it.
Aww.
And she's so smart and funny and straightforward. And she's so no bullshit with like a smile. She's just like, oh yeah, I wanted to make this, so I wrote it.
As I mentioned, my wife converted, which was like the greatest gift she could have ever given me and the Jewish people at large.
Truly.
Weekly shout out to Courtney. Although unlike Noah, I actually brought up conversion on our first date.
Stop.
At the very first date. We had a unique start where like I told her I loved her on our first date. It's like we were boyfriend and girlfriend before we even went on a date. It's a whole thing. It was just like, Bashir. But she really loved
so many questions.
that I brought it up on the first date. And her response was, so I asked her, I said, would you be open to the idea of converting? Because like, I'm serious about you. You're serious about me. If this goes all the way, would you at least be open to discussing it? Because if not, then like, I don't know what we're going to do here, but it's like, we got to figure it out. And she was like, I really appreciate you bringing that up now. If I see that it's important to you and not your parents or your family, then yes, I would be open to saying what would happen. How do you feel about, interfaith relationships, intermarriage, having a Jewish partner?
It's an interesting one.
And this is a judgment-free zone.
Oh, sure.
Reiterate.
Yeah, tell that to the comments, but okay. Yeah, my boyfriend's not Jewish. Neither of my brothers married a Jewish woman. But my parents are very culturally Jewish. And so I think it's interesting that none of us, and I've dated multiple Jews in the past, and it didn't work out, and having nothing to do with that. They weren't my person. And my boyfriend is my person. And he feels very Jewish to me. And his grandpa was, and his grandma converted to Judaism for his grandpa. And so his mom was raised completely Jewish.
Okay.
Then she converted to Catholicism for his dad, for Joe's dad.
That's so funny.
So there's Jewish in there. Like his energy is very like, for this I bent down. It's very, and it's, how do I feel about it in general? I just think we love who we love. And that goes for everybody.
I feel like a lot of the people who like look at Jews wanting to marry other Jews, they think it's about Jews like thinking they're better than non-Jews, or that non-Jews aren't good enough, or something's wrong with them, whatever, which is obviously not true.
Sure.
I think, it really comes from like a Jewish fear of, as so many things are based in for Jewish people's fear, a fear of like if everybody intermarries and stops raising Jewish kids, and the people will die out.
It's crazy. When we really crunch our numbers, it's staggering. And so I understand, we're trying to repopulate a people, and I'm not helping. But
just to that end, like I loved seeing a contemporary Jewish character care that his potential life partner should also be Jewish.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with the alternative.
Of course.
But like I think it's okay to portray a Jew who cares about marrying a Jew.
And I think for us specifically, that there are so few of us, it makes it even more understandable. Like, well, of course you would. It's
a numbers game.
Right,
it's like there's way more non-Jews than Jews to meet out in the world. And I think it's important to note that intermarriage and abandonment of your Jewish identity are not like a guaranteed cause and effect that I think a lot of people believe. You can abandon your Jewish identity way before you marry somebody.
Truly.
And you can marry somebody and live super Jewishly and raise Jewish kids. So I don't think they're one and the same. And if anything, I think, especially this time, we're talking about, it's a numbers game. We need to be welcoming more people in and widening the tent. And, to me, like the greatest tragedy would be pushing somebody out who is connected to Judaism or wants to feel more connected to Judaism because they love somebody who isn't Jewish, and we're casting them out when they could be such a, treasured member of the community if they would just be let in the door.
Right.
So.
I think, it's very interesting. And we're one of the few religions we don't, is the word proselytize right?
Yes, we do
we're,
not.
Yeah, we're just like, we're good.
Which means we don't try to convert other people to the religion. We don't spread it around with missionaries or anything.
Yeah, we don't.
Or conquest.
Yeah.
There is a tangible fear right now in Hollywood that like anything related to being Jewish is going to somehow be like political or incendiary because of what's happening in the Middle East. I thought this show proves that notion completely false. Completely devoid of any politicizing or current event or anything. Did you see or feel that fear at any point in the making of the show?
Yeah. I just think when we were making the show, we were like, I hope people are open-minded and watch this show as a romantic comedy with a charismatic and fun and lovely group of people, some of whom are Jewish and playing Jewish. Like it's a sort of a trite answer, but that is really how we felt. Like, we just hope everybody is open and enjoys this for what it is. Because we were feeling like if people were open-minded to just watch it, they would like it.
Yeah. What was it like making a show about Jews while like outside the set, anti-Jewish hate is exploding all over the country? Did you guys feel that? I mean, was that a thing?
We did and didn't. It was like, I think they were sort of two separate things where it's just like what's going on over there is an absolute nightmare wrapped in a disaster, wrapped in the worst thing ever. And then we were also trying to find the joy and the light and the whatever the word is of just like being Jewish and making art and jokes and comedy in the face of that. Again, as Jews do.
Yeah.
I mean, my grandma would tell me about like the jokes people would tell each other in the shtetls during the Holocaust. And I'm like, you had time for a joke while running literally on your feet, running from country to country. Also, she used to put lipstick on.
What do you mean?
She literally would like be in a ghetto, like hiding from Nazis.
It's like I'm not gonna look less than my best just because you want me to. I love that. 3-parter for you here. How has your connection to being Jewish changed, if at all, since October 7th, since making this show, and since like doing all this press representing this show?
Wow. So since October 7th. I definitely wear my Jewish star, my chamsa more, and my chai more.
Same.
I feel a little bit like, I'm Jewish. I'm Jewish. I've been very lucky in my life not to have experienced too much anti-Semitism, and a lot of like the online rhetoric is terrifying right now, even from like people I know and people that I thought were, so that's a little bit scary. So that has changed a little, but I am still me and saying what I say and doing what I do. And then the show, I think the same, stayed even, sort of similar to an answer before, like
sure.
I am Esther, Esther is me. And then while doing press, I don't know, again, like I said earlier, I'm such a straight line. I've always been like this. So it's nice to be able to just talk about it and be the person that I am. And similar to your answer earlier of like, oh, it's comfy in this. It's comfy for me here. This is who I am.
So by now, most folks have probably heard the news. You guys are coming back for season 2.
Let's go, baby.
Mazel tov.
Thank
Amazing.
You. Are you an M-A-Z-A-L or an M-A-Z-E-L?
Great question. I'm an E.
Hey.
Mazel tov.
The Mazal Tov, I haven't heard. The first time I heard it was like a few years ago.
What? Mazal tov?
Mazal tov.
As opposed to mazel tov?
Yes. And the spelling is different. Like I've been getting a lot of M-A-Z-A-Ls. Listen, we talked about it.
Different
but
strokes,
anyway, yes.
different folks.
Sure.
What do you want to see in season 2? Let's start with like for Esther. Like
I would love to meet her family. Like where does this woman come from? Is her mother like Susie Essman? And like is her mother?
That's a fun cameo.
Or like Fran or Who is her bet? Come on, all the dreams.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's like some family situation that could happen there, but I don't really know. I mean, obviously, we're going to have to explore what goes on with Sasha and Morgan, her husband, and
Right. That's sort of like maybe even the biggest
that's the biggest
cliffhanger of it all. It's like something's brewing. And
what is going on over there?
Yeah.
And Esther is not happy about it. So I imagine season 2 is going to be starting. I don't know, but like what the F is going on over there?
Yeah.
And we'll see how that manifests. I also think I just thought of this, but like Esther wants to do a podcast.
Great.
I can imagine it's
Being
just
Jewish
like
with Esther Rocklov.
That's right. Yes, full name. Being Jewish with Esther Rocklov. I live.
There you go.
So maybe there's something there. I don't know yet.
I like it.
Okay.
Is there anything like from your Jewish life that you're like, oh, we should do this in season 2? Like we didn't do a Seder. We didn't do a blank.
Oh, I love that. I love a Seder. Although we did do a makeshift Seder on Glow. We had a campfire episode, a camping episode where it was Passover. And Melrose was like, my mother would kill me if I didn't at least, attempt to have a Seder. So she takes the hubcaps off her limousine and makes them into Seder plates.
Genius.
That's
resourceful.
I mean, that show.
It's a little unhygienic. But,
I mean, listen.
You got to work with what you got.
A little washcloth. So, I mean, that would be cool. Or like some version of a Shabbat.
They did the Shabbat candles in the restaurant.
At the restaurant.
So they had like
that's right. They had their moment. But like
a family dinner.
Yeah, and the way that like my family's always like you rip the challah and you throw it. And it's just like it shows this like joyful, familial, again, like, Jewish joy.
Yeah.
Not
So you guys are challah rippers.
Oh, we're challah rippers.
Yeah, okay. When Skylar Aston was here, we talked about ripping versus slicing.
Oh no, we're rippers. My family growing up, we were slicers, and then I went to Israel, and then they were rippers, and then when I came back, I was like, "Gang, we're rippers."
I love that. I mean, if they're doing it, we got to be doing it.
Authenticity, baby.
Yeah,
we're
I
rippers.
love that. Another project on the horizon for you. Surprise, spoiler alert, you're playing a Jew.
None of your business.
Is in a movie called Floaters about Jewish sleepaway camp, which we've already established you attended.
I did.
So now we're bringing it back to the Loconda Lion reference from my intro. We know you went there because my story producer also went there.
And saw it on the Loconda Lions Instagram and Facebook that they have blown up that I am an alumni.
I don't know, but that's cool.
That's definitely how.
Is that a nice claim to fame? Like it's very really prideful
cute.
moment for you?
It's really cute. But also to speak to that when we were talking about like how Jewish people are receiving the show, like all these people from camp and everyone's just like over the moon. It's really nice.
It
feels
cool.
Really good.
So he wanted me to ask you, do the names Ira and Ray ring a bell?
Of course.
Who are Ira and Ray?
Ira Steinfeld and Ray Diamond. Ray Diamond was the camp owner, and Ira had like tall knee socks, and he was the head of, I was going to say boys camp, but he may have been the head of, I think it was called under camp or the youth camp. Like we were the younger ones. Ira, when I was a kid, we would like, he led Friday night services, big Adon Olam fan. Asher Malach B'Terem Kol, of course.
Excellent.
Thank you.
So many tunes you can sing it to, tunes.
Ours, what was yours?
What tune? Like, literally, it was like you could pick any song
Ours was
and throw it
Adon
to it.
Olam, Asher Malach B'Terem Kol, Yitzir Nivra, Li'et Nasa, V'chef Zako, Azai Malach Shemo Nikra Adon Olam. And I went home at the commercial break on American Idol. Imagine? Could you imagine?
I can't.
After that version of it, I should have done Adon Olam on Idol.
Yeah, there you go.
I would have gotten eliminated much sooner.
Yeah,
thank you.
Can you finish the lyric? We came to camp as strangers yesterday.
We came to camp as strangers yesterday, afraid to go away from everyone we love. So scared. Why do you know it?
I don't. I was just playing along. You like pointed to me. I was like, all right,
okay. You're like, I could read your mouth. So scared. I think we're saying so scared. That's what we're saying. Yeah, of course I can finish the lyric is the answer to your question.
That was amazing.
Thank you.
What is that?
It's the greatest thing ever. This is going to get posted on the Loconda Lions page.
Oh my God. They're going to go crazy.
It's going to be bonkers, dude. That was the camp song, but it was the tune of like either Neil Diamond. Oh, they'll kill me. Now I'm turning on them. I will always think of you. Is that Carole King?
I don't know. But we sang with Carole King at one of those charity
Yes,
concerts
we
I mentioned
freaking did.
in 2019,
Yes, we
which was pretty
freaking
darn
did.
cool.
We were having like a singing at charity concerts moment
We
together.
did. Yep.
That was wild.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever done one since, and we did 2 in the span of like 3 weeks.
Right. I know.
Like, great.
Look at you now.
Listen,
Look
us
at
both.
you now. All right. So at some point, I was talking about a movie called Floaters.
Oh, no.
I don't know when that happened.
No. Could have been any time.
What can you tell us about your character in that and making the movie and when it's coming out and all that stuff?
This was an indie, and so when it gets distribution, I will let you know and it'll come out.
Okay.
But until then, it's called The Floaters, and it's about my character, Nomi, who wanted to be a rock star. Her band quits. Her life's falling apart. She's 40. She's like crying. She calls her best friend who's at the sleepaway camp, who works now at the sleepaway camp they went to as kids. And she's like, Nomi, come to camp. She's like, come on, there's no chance I'm coming to camp. Cut to her boots exiting the Uber. And she sort of gets out of her own way and teaches the misfits at the camp about art and their value. And they're called the Floaters because they didn't sign up for any activities. So there's like this group of like 10 ragtag, kids, and they become like a unit and they put on a show.
That's so cool.
It's really
she reconnects
sweet.
with herself
Exactly.
in a new way.
And she reconnects with herself, but I also think like as artists, we are so eye on the prize. We're so focused on my goals. I have my goals. And this is like the first time in her life she's like, oh, not my goals, their goals. And that's
got to be refreshing.
Becomes my goals. That
That's cool.
I just want these kids to feel good and find their voice and perform.
I think I auditioned for Floaters.
This makes sense.
I definitely auditioned for Nobody Wants This.
For the brother?
For the brother.
Of course.
Okay, so we talked about Sukkot. Did you know that?
Probably not.
Okay, so, but when this airs, we're going to be in the middle of Sukkot, going into Shmini Atzeret.
Oh, Shmini Atzeret is one of my favorite terms, or I don't even know what it means.
I don't know. As far as I understand, it's basically the last day of Sukkot with like a couple of different ritualistic choices. Like there's some prayer you don't say, like you don't shake the lulav on that day.
Oh.
You pray for rain or something,
Shmini
very,
Atzeret.
very tribal situation. And then the day after that is Simchat Torah. Do we know this one?
I know all of the terms.
You've heard them.
If
You're
you
familiar.
asked me out of context, if Shmini Atzeret and Simchat Torah have anything to do with Sukkot, I wouldn't have known.
Right.
But I know them. They're all in there. Also, just sidebar, I have something in my right eye. So the
Okay.
people watching at home, if you feel like I have a twitch, that's why. Thank you. Jonah, continue.
Well, they didn't think it before, but now they're just, everyone's going to be staring at your right eye.
Fine, because feel like I've been going like this. And it's like, at a certain point, you have to say something because it's like.
We'll CGI a different eye
Oh, cute.
in front of your eye.
Yes.
Do you ever see
one green, one blue?
in Blade? In one of the Blade movies, like Wesley Snipes wouldn't open his eyes or
Shut up.
something. So they had to CGI eyes
I
on
will
top
be
of his
Googling
closed
this.
eyes. Yeah, you'll see it. It's very
the
funny.
speed with which I'm Googling this upon our finishing.
So Simchat Torah is you celebrate finishing the year of reading through the whole Torah. It's like you've reached the end.
Oh.
To take a darker turn, like October 7th of last year fell on Simchat Torah. So this is now the first Simchat Torah since. Right. I think people are going to try to find the joy in it despite, the
terror.
The terror. We always like to end with some questions from our Instagram audience.
Oh, can't wait.
If you want to leave questions for my guest any week, you just got to be at Being Jewish Podcast on Instagram. We always announce the guest and ask for your fun questions there. So we got a couple great ones for you.
Okay, ready?
A Jewish_girl asks, are we ever going to get more best leftovers ever? You were an awesome host.
Thank you, a Jewish_girl. No. Is the short
Netflix
answer.
cooking show, by the way.
Netflix cooking show, best leftovers ever, still streaming. The timing of that show was unfortunate.
It was 2020, right? It was like pandemic.
And if you think about the nature of leftovers during COVID, like you're really
There's
going
just
to
a little bit of a
yeah,
gross
like you're just taking
vibe.
something and it's just like maybe toss it.
Right.
But before that, it was recycling and eco-friendly. And
Interesting.
look at these leftovers that you had. You can use these different, add some ingredients and turn it into high-end cuisine. And that show was such a joy to make. Oh my God.
I've always wanted to be just famous enough to get the opportunity to like be a guest judge on some sort of cooking show?
Oh my God, my dream is I want to be a guest judge on RuPaul's Drag Race.
That's a little outside of my wheelhouse, but I love that for you.
It's deep. It's my whole wheelhouse. It's the whole house.
I don't know if it's Laya or Leah 1. She wants to know, have you ever been to Israel, which you mentioned you have? And if so, what's your favorite place that you visited?
And I went with the Schusterman Foundation. Do you know that
Did you go on like reality on a trip?
I went reality.
Okay.
It was life-changing. Absolutely life-changing.
That's amazing. Nice plug for Schusterman there.
Oh my goodness. I mean, they sent us to Israel. The least I could do is talk about them. I mean, it was really, really exceptional and life-changing. I remember... God, the food was amazing.
For sure.
The markets were amazing. It was so exceptional. It was jaw-dropping is what it was.
Yeah, it's a special place. We sort of touched on this, but we'll get a definitive answer from you. Olivia.ra13. Do we think Morgan is going to come between Esther and Sasha?
I mean, yeah.
That's the prediction.
I think so. And I think
it's good TV.
It's good TV, and I think even if they don't end up having like a major affair, it's already come between Esther and Sasha.
There's already a thing now.
Well, yeah, because of the hiding and the lying.
Right.
And this is, I think, the big thing in relationships where it's like, I mean, I don't know how he would have told her. I don't see that it would have gone especially well.
Right.
But at least he wouldn't have been hiding.
Right. That's a tough spot.
That's a tough spot.
Well, I love seeing people like you succeed.
That's really
because
nice. Thank you.
You know, so much of what we think Hollywood is the people who like get a hit movie when they're 18 years old and then they're off to the races. But like, this is the real Hollywood, is somebody who just is grinding and grinding and grinding. And now you're on a hit show and it's just awesome.
It's just,
so I'm really happy for you.
Thank you.
I think the show should be called Everybody Fucking Wants This.
Everybody Fucking Wants This. Did you know that it was originally called Shiksa?
Yeah, I did know that.
I was like, of all the places for us not to discuss that, yes.
But I think it was a good choice to not call it Shiksa.
I just heard Erin on her pod talk about the same thing. Like at first we were all bummed. We were like, oh, it's going to be impossible to beat Shiksa. But now that it's Nobody Wants This and everybody loves it, it just feels so right.
Jackie.
Jonah.
You are a delight. This has been such a pleasure.
This is so delightful.
I would have you on every week.
My bracelets, I'll tell you, are... She makes all different kinds, but they're by a woman on Instagram, Beads for Proceeds. And she...
Nice rhyme.
Yeah, she's rad. And she made these amazing bracelets.
Was this the inspiration for Rachel's choker making character?
Is that the funniest thing?
Who I was in an acting class with, by the way.
She's
Rachel.
Fabulous. Yeah. Fabulous. I'm an investor in that company.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. Really fun. Anyway, thought I'd shout out my beautiful little bracelets.